A Christian school is suing school officials. It says its school teams were banned from participating in future sports tournaments after a girls' basketball team refused to compete in a game against a biological male. The lawsuit says the Vermont Principals Association won't even allow the school and its students to participate in co-ed academic competitions like the GOB, Science and Math Fair, and Debate and Forensic League, all because the school believes biological boys are boys and cannot affirm otherwise.
The biological male is over 6 feet tall and is seen here knocking rivals out of the way during this game. This is crazy.
You know, in the middle of the season last year, we were informed by other coaches and other players in the league that there was a male athlete playing for another team in our division. Now, this other team was not on our schedule during the year. But we did see that there was a possibility that we might end up playing them in the playoffs and being seeded against them. And after discussions with the administration and our players and parents, we decided that instead of going against our religious beliefs that, you know, there are differences between male and female and we are created differently, we decided to forfeit that game and withdraw from the tournament. And at that point, the state of Vermont governing body kicked us out of all athletic competitions in the state.
Vermont Christian School has every right to teach its beliefs to its own students. It cannot, however, impose those beliefs on students from other public and private schools, deny students from other schools the opportunity to play, or hurt students from other schools because of who those students are.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So we have a positive story today about a Christian school that stood up for its female athletes who refused to compete against a team with a male player in a basketball tournament. The school thought that these girls were going to forfeit the tournament, out of the tournament, and, you know, that's bad enough. And they thought that they could move on to the next one, but refuse in the meantime to compete against this team. Well, it turns out that they were punished so severely that the school was banned from all athletic tournaments in the state, and even all competitions in general, like spelling bees, co-ed competitions. Absolutely ridiculous, and this was a 2-year ban. So the school itself was punished, and again, these school districts that come up with these policies, these sporting bodies that come up with these policies, they are all too willing to exclude girls from competing in their own sports, or to appease the feelings of one boy, or to protect an ideology. Apparently, Vermont has a history of discriminating against Christian schools as well.
We've seen this play out from coast to coast situations in Connecticut with the track runners, volleyball out west. And so this is just another one of those situations where school districts are taking this wayward political agenda and punishing anybody who dissents. And in this particular case, the school followed its religious beliefs, which happen to coincide with biology, that boys are boys and girls are girls. You would think that would be common sense by now. But the punishment meted out on the school for voluntarily forfeiting one game already had the penalty of being removed from the tournament from that loss. They accepted that. But then the harshest penalty ever meted out by the state was to remove them from not only all sports for the girls, but all sports totally. And you imagine any school that every single sport was taken away would be devastating. And so the argument tomorrow is going to be focused on this is a free exercise violation. It's a penalty against the exercise of religion. There's been hostility from the state for years. This is the 4th time we've had to sue them on similar issues. So far, we're 3 for 3, so hopefully tomorrow we'll make it 4 for 4.
And the state is completely failing to consider the biological reality here, the health and safety consequences, and we filed a lawsuit on it. We're very confident that we're going to prevail.
The school sports teams and even its academic teams like Spelling Bee and Mathletes, they had to travel out of state to compete with other schools. I mean, can you even imagine? All because they wanted their female athletes to have fair and safe sports. The entire school was punished. And people wonder why girls don't speak up. People wonder why girls still show up to compete against these boys. Why don't they just protest and not show up for the event? Well, these girls did that, and their entire school was banned from competing in sporting competitions. And not even just sporting competitions, competitions in general. So boycotting, not showing up is not an easy decision. A lot is at stake here. Some girls just decide that it's better to just go along with it. But what those girls are doing is risking their safety. Not to mention being forced to compete in a situation that simply isn't fair. So this is telling you what these states are willing to do in order to protect their ideology. So the school filed lawsuits a couple of years ago. They were unsuccessful and they sought to escalate this matter to the higher courts. But thankfully, a settlement has now been reached. They went through mediation, and at the end of the mediation process, they came to this figure. So state education agencies in Vermont have paid over $566,000 in damages and legal fees to a Christian school that was banned from all sports and academic competitions for 2 years after its girls' basketball team refused to compete against a trans athlete in 2023. The girls' basketball coach, Chris Goodwin, said we were all in agreement that the right decision was not to compromise our beliefs and to withdraw. But the conversation with the players was the hardest. Because you play a 20-game season and you put in the work, and the expectation is that you enter the postseason tournament with a shot to see how you're going to do and see how far you can get. So there were some teary eyes and some sad faces, but in the end, they all really did understand that it was the right thing to do. So the school is 111 students, so it's a small school. But even so, the entire school was punished, and this all came about because they forfeited one game. Within days of the forfeit, they learned the consequences escalated far beyond a single game. The Vermont Principals Association banned the school, not just from basketball, but from all athletics and a range of academic competitions. Almost immediately, they came out very strongly, Goodwin said. We were going to be banned from all athletic competitions in the state. And then on top of that, science fairs and spelling bees. So they were able to go out of state, so they could continue their extracurricular activities. But you can imagine the inconvenience. You can imagine the fact that they've been singled out for simply standing up for their female basketball team. There's been stories of female basketball players going up against male players and getting injured. There was one high school team where they had 3 girls injured in one game because there was a 6-foot bearded basketball player competing on the other team.
Mr. Tucker, we're showing this footage right here. Look at the elbows being thrown on. Is there any legal ramifications? Because we have a biological male that is hurting other female athletes. It's only going to end one way here.
And this is a basketball team that had the ambition of winning the state championship. That was their goal, and that was taken from them. They were excluded from competing in sports in their own state. So the state certainly fought the school and didn't back down despite its ridiculous reaction to them not wanting to compete against that particular team. When the school took the issue to the courts, the state and its agencies didn't fold. ADF Senior Counsel Dave Cortman told Fox News Digital that he was shocked at how firmly the education authorities in Vermont wouldn't back down from their sweeping sanction on the small Christian school. It's been surprising how much the state has dug in their heels, the arguments they've made, even saying your beliefs are wrong. Their message was, in order for you to follow your religious beliefs, boys are boys, girls are girls, that would actually violate their non-discrimination policies. So the irony of it was they were discriminating against religious schools. So last year, at least the appeals court put an end to the banishment and said that the school should be allowed to participate in state athletics because it's been like 2 years.
This settlement is a giant win, not only for the First Amendment, but obviously for the school itself.
That's according to senior counsel for the Vermont Christian School. The school filed a lawsuit against the Vermont Principals Association in 2023 after all of its teams were barred indefinitely from competition and athletic tournaments conducted by the Vermont Principals Association. The heavy-handed penalty came after the girls' basketball team boycotted a game against a team with a trans player. The VPA claimed the school's actions violated the state's anti-discrimination policy. But Mid-Vermont teams were once again allowed to compete this season after a federal appeals court issued an injunction against the VPA late last year. This week, the VPA agreed to pay out more than $500,000 in damages and attorney's fees and promised similar bans would not take place in the future, according to the Alliance Defending Freedom.
Religious schools and families shouldn't be punished merely for engaging in their religious beliefs and religious exercise. And we appreciate the VPA for actually coming to this conclusion and agreeing to settle the case.
However, litigation against the Agency of Education is still moving forward, involving town tuition payments to religious schools across the state, including Mid-Vermont Christian.
And it was a bittersweet moment when Mid-Vermont Christian made it back to the state tournament and back to the bar auditorium. It's the state's old arena every Vermont player dreams of stepping onto for a chance to win a championship. When we won our quarterfinal game to get there, our senior captain, who graduated a year ago, was talking on the phone to her sister, who plays for me now. They're both crying on the phone. Number one, because of the joy of achieving a goal that they wanted to achieve, but also the sadness of her sister, who's a freshman in college now, not having that opportunity. So these state agencies were all too willing to exclude girls from their own sports for years. Not only just the girls, all the athletes who wanted to compete in state athletics, in competitions that weren't even sports, general competitions. They were all too willing to exclude a whole school, all to accommodate the feelings of one boy. All in the name of inclusion, they wanted to exclude a whole school. They did exclude a whole school for years, simply because the school cared about the safety of its female athletes. This is basketball. We've seen WNBA players struggle against high school boys simply because the boy has a much higher bone density.
Biggest lead now. Serena loses it to Kiefer. Kiefer all the way. There we go. Cutting the lead down to 7. Whoa. Kiefer, come on. Come on now. Hey, easy. Foul off Kiefer, relax. Didn't I say this was going to be competitive? I knew it. Nobody's backing down this one.
The differences between that male player and the female athletes is indisputable. But these school districts, these school agencies were willing to overlook that and take away fair and safe sports from these female athletes. Just because it's a small school, just because it's a Christian school that has beliefs that you may disagree with, that doesn't mean that these girls do not matter, that their safety does not matter. Every student in that school has the right to participate in state athletics fairly and safely with equal opportunities. So I'm glad the appeals court recognized that, and I'm glad that this settlement has been reached. No doubt because this school had a very good case. This school had common sense on its side. This school had biology on its side. How are they going to justify excluding this school for as long as they did? So I'm not surprised that they were willing to settle.
We have not really received any backlash at all. A phone call or two to the school saying, that they think we're in the wrong. But whether you believe the way we believe and have our same religious beliefs or not, almost every coach I've talked to agrees with how we're handling this situation. I was at work yesterday. I had to leave work early, and I told a gentleman he's a liberal gentleman. He's an 80-year-old Vermonter, and he's no fan of the conservative side of politics for sure. But as we were leaving, I said, I'm not going to see you tomorrow. And he said, hey, Chris, I'm with you on this one, right? And I said, yeah, I know you are. And he said, good luck Wednesday. So it's not just people who have the same religious beliefs that, boys and girls are created differently. And out of that come definitely physical advantages for males, especially in high school. But it's really the general population that I believe gets it and understands that we're in the right on this.
The coach said that the decision of the state was hurtful, and it's bittersweet to be back, but they're glad that they're back, competing in competitions within their own state. That's where they belong. They should never have been excluded, and they should never have been put in this situation in the first place. So I'm so happy for these girls. I'm so happy for all the students in this school. They deserve better. They really do. They should never have been put in this situation in the first place. But the school backed them all the way. And I'm really happy to see that it paid off in the long run. But it must have been very intimidating having to face a legal battle just for fair and safe sports. The state of Vermont needs to do better, and I hope lessons can be learned from this. And anyone else put in this situation needs to do the same thing so that things will change in that state once and for all. Now that they've had to pay out this sum, perhaps the school agencies there will think differently before excluding girls from their own sports, regardless of the state law. Maybe it's about time Vermont follows the federal law and makes sure that everyone competes in the correct category. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video. And a huge thanks to all of those who have hyped my videos. It is much appreciated.